Welcome to the Early Educator Podcast. We talk about everything that you need when it comes to growing your business, overcoming obstacles, and making an impact on not only the children in your care, but in your community and your family. My name is Blake, and with me today, I have Senta, the Executive Director of Our Daily Bread, CACFP. So Senta, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Of course. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Yep. So summer has been here. It's summertime right now. It's very hot outside. 90s. It's not even summertime yet. It's like I think technically it's summertime, like June 20th or something like that.
Not sure what date, but
Few
we're
days away.
feeling the heat, feeling the humidity.
Oh yeah, the humidity for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So yeah, it's hot. So I'm not sure where you're listening from, but hopefully it's not as hot as it is here. But probably is. But anyway, I guess we'll go ahead and get into it. Today we're talking to Senta just about the journey of Our Daily Bread. For people who don't know about Our Daily Bread, CACFP, how it got started, what it is, and kind of how she got the passion and the call to do this. And so we're going to talk about that today. And it should be a good conversation. So I guess I'll go ahead and start off with the first question. I think one thing that a lot of people may not know about you is that you were an educator. So you were in the home, you took care of kids, so you have a lot of personal experience with it. And I think that kind of speaks to your passion of why you love, this agency and what you do. And so if you don't mind, could you share your experience about being an educator, or like how you became an educator, what gave you that drive to do that? And what inspired you after that to kind of start an agency? Like what happened with that?
Sure. So, what actually started, where the inception of Our Daily Bread CACFP came from was I worked outside of the home. I had a job, and a pretty good job, or worked pretty affluent job, and my children were at an in-home daycare, and so I chose an in-home daycare, a smaller setting, because I felt like they would get, personalized care there. I felt like they would be well taken care of, and they were. I felt like they were. But I got the call that every parent does not want to get, and that call was that that there has been a small accident, and that was her protocol, was, to call, and your child has been hurt, but it was no big deal. So the no big deal call. And so I was a very protective parent, overprotective parent. So I went to the daycare, the childcare, and when I got there, my son he had been burned. There, he had second and third degree burns on both of his legs, and at the time, he was, I guess, probably 9 months old, 10 months old. He wasn't even walking at the time, and so what had happened was her daughter had went into her room, into her bathroom, got her curling iron, laid it down beside my baby, and he had rolled over it and then back over it. And so his legs had bubbled over, both of them. And so I immediately grabbed my baby, and I also had a younger child, walking child, and toddler. I took him to the emergency room, and we were in the emergency room all night long. My sister came and got my toddler. My husband and I were in the emergency room all night long because they had to investigate to make sure they actually got a little towel thing, rolled it up. They didn't literally put his legs on it, but they rolled him over and back over to assure that that was actually what had happened. They asked me, of course, where the daycare was, that kind of thing. But yes, that was what happened. And so from there, I became a stay-at-home mom, and I took care of my baby. I nursed him back to health, and I couldn't work outside of the home. That was something that was very difficult for me to do afterwards. So I stayed home with both of my children, and after my child got a lot better, I decided that I needed to be with them. But the other part to that was that, ensuring that children were being taken care of. After that, what I decided to do was to keep a couple children, other children, because we were broke. I, abruptly decided to stay home. So as I kept other children along with my two children, I decided to keep a couple other children. So that began, the journey. So I found out about the Child and Adult Care Food Program while I was keeping other children.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they came to my home, there was a list of things that they were supposed to do when they came into my home, the Child and Adult Care Food Program.
Okay.
When they came to do that, those things weren't being done. So I immediately called to their boss and said, I don't want to be on your program because it was personal with me at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Then I decided, I told my husband, I said, I can do this. I can do this. I can do the Child and Adult Care Food Program. And this is personal with me. The nutrition and the education of the children at the same time. And he said, okay.
Mm-hmm.
He really wasn't on board with it, but at the same time, he seen my passion behind this.
Yeah.
So that was really the inception of the CACFP for me. But I had to take classes, I had to study, I had to learn how to do this. I called the state office. I found out all about the Child and Adult Care Food Program. So when I found out all about the Child and Adult Care Food Program, there was that 100% full force passion behind it because it became personal with me.
Yeah.
So that was how it was started, but there was a lot of other things that came in behind that.
Okay. So you got started basically because you had a sponsor and they came in, they weren't doing their part. And so for you, you were like, well, hold on now. Like there's things you got to make sure of. Like I'm keeping kids. And so that was kind of the main thing that drove you was trying to make sure that it was done the right way as supposed to.
Yes.
That's
yes.
awesome.
Ensuring that the rules, the regulations, the compliance, because behind the food program, there's rules that need to be followed. There's regulation, there's compliance, there's things that have to happen in order for these children to be fed these well-balanced, nutritious meals. There is that, that reimbursement component, but there is that regulation part that needs to be met also.
Yeah, that really explains too with our daily bread how you've always been made a thing where it's like if you're gonna do it the right way, do it right the first time.
Absolutely.
And so that makes sense where that comes from, definitely. So just to circle back with when you were a child care educator, what were some of the challenges that you went through as an educator? That obviously it motivated you to create like a sponsor agency, but what kind of challenges did you go through and how did you navigate through those?
Some of the challenge that you face is that you have to stay in compliance. You have to form those relationships with the parents. You have to on the day-to-day you're dealing with the children. You have to make sure that you have that daily routine with the children. And a lot of times, all children are different, so you have to conform to that with the regulation and the curriculum that with the guidelines and the curriculum that you set forth for those children, that you put in line for those children. There's that growth that the children are experiencing, so you have to pay attention to that, and you have to know what the individual growth and the growth patterns that they're on. You have to set up those classrooms according to the needs that need to be met for each child. And then, of course, you have licensing coming in, and you have to know what your licensing guidelines are and those that are met. You have to know what the CACFP guidelines are, and you have to meet those CACFP guidelines. You have to stay in regulation with those things. You have to develop a relationship with the parents. And you have to know, let the parents know on a daily basis what's going on with their child. And you have to, keep those communication lines open with the parents. You have to keep in mind as a child care educator, you always have to have in the forefront of your mind the impact that you're making on the children that you're keeping, because you are that mentor. you are that role model. You are the person that they see. You are the person that they're mimicking, the whole 9 yards. So that should be in the forefront of your mind at all times. So those things are very important. The
Okay.
professional development that we're instilling in the children. So everything that you do, everything that you purchase, everything that you do set in mind, set out for those children, the guidelines, the classrooms, the curriculums, every step of the way. That's all the professional development that you set up for the children. That is very important and paramount to the future of our younger generations.
Okay.
Also, some other challenges that you do face as an educator is you also have with children, there are behavioral issues that you have to address. And
Okay.
so with addressing those, you have to be equipped to address those behavioral differences, those behavioral challenges, if you will. So you have to be studied up to address those behavioral challenges in each child. Each child is an individual. So you have to be equipped to address those, assess those, determine those, and know how to treat each child differently and to address those behavioral needs differently, because that is very important with each child. Again, I already said, you have physical demands. There's physical demands in each environment as well. You have to know and be prepared to address those physical demands. You have that open door policy at your facility. That is very, very important for your facility, your childcare facility, for the parents, that you have that open door policy, because their most prized possession is inside of those doors. So it's so important that they can come and go as they please. There is none of this business of you can't come during this time, or you can't come, we're eating at this time or that time. That is a child care facility, of course, and it belongs to you, of course, but their child, their most prized possession is inside of that facility. So the business of childcare puts an emotional strain on educators as well as the teachers. So it's important that you do self-care. Self-care is very important. You take time to yourself, at home, spend that time to yourself to cool down, spend that time to yourself to whatever your thing is. If it's to take a nice bubble bath, if it's to go for a walk, a run, whatever you do that self-care, because that is so very important, so that you're 100% when you come in that door to the children. So you give your all to the children. The other thing is your administrative tasks. Make sure that you take that time for those administrative tasks. You do your to-do list, plan time, plan and schedule out your different tasks so that you're very effective in all the tasks that you do.
Okay. Cool. That's great. So, when you did transition out of childcare education into growing the sponsor agency, what would you say were some of the like the key experiences you had, or key lessons that you learned from it that you were able to bring into the agency that are important today?
I'd say one very important thing that I really like to impress upon my team is to try to understand from the educator's perspective. Try to understand from the educator's perspective. Have a heart for what you do. If you don't have a heart for what you do, if you don't have a heart for this business, it's going to be hard to be in this business. If you don't have a heart in from some perspective. Most of my team members, if not all of my team members, have worked with children or from a child care perspective in some way, form or fashion. So that is one key thing, is that you do. The next thing is understanding the importance of nutrition. If we understand the importance of nutrition, then we understand the importance of impressing that nutrition upon children at a very, very young age.
Mm-hmm.
because that carries on with children from inception. We entice their palate from a very, very young age. And so then we stamp out a lot of the diseases that we have as adults that we didn't learn when we were children.
Yeah.
I think that is key. Another key thing, um, balancing compliance and practicality. So we have to be in compliance. It's funny because I, this is I'm a rule follower. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
we're going to follow the rules.
Yeah.
So that is something that is very, very, very important to me as the leader.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to impress that upon my team. So we're
Mm-hmm.
going to teach that as we go out as field representatives, enrollment specialists. Um, I'm trying to think of the other word, reimbursement specialist, all of our titles,
Yeah.
we're going to follow that. So there's
Yeah.
a need for compliance.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes everybody's job easier when you follow the rules, right?
Yeah.
Like they're saying you don't have to remember the truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the same thing with rules. We try to support the community in every way that we can. Those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
Emphasizing training and development.
Mm-hmm.
So we emphasize that and we try to teach that to our educators. You train your team, you develop your team, those types of things.
Makes sense. Because we do host quite a bit of trainings throughout the year, like in person. We even have the online ones now that we do. So training is one of those things we really do push.
Yeah, and we hope our podcasts help too.
Yeah, part of it too. Hope you get the golden nuggets out of it.
We do.
Yep, that's awesome. So, as an early educator, what would you say are some like specific like qualities and specific traits that you say are like pivotal to just running like a childcare facility to like really owning it and like having it succeed? Well, I guess succeed means more of like be a safe, healthy, like positive place for kids to come to.
One of the first things I would say is communication.
Okay.
And I say that because we literally, there's one childcare center I will say in particular, the location of the childcare center was just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But that childcare center, I say we watched 3 different people open that childcare center. And it was not successful.
Okay.
And we kept wondering, what is wrong with the childcare center? And I literally kept saying it's important that you have the right person in place at the door.
Okay.
Person in place at the door, person to communicate. And so it might have been the third person. It probably was the third person, I think, or the fourth person to open the childcare center. And then the personality of that person, the last person to open the center, put the director in the front, the daycare center just boomed. And the person, I would have communicated a couple times with the person, and some of my team communicate with, oh, wow, this director, she's out of sight. She's this, she's that. Filled the childcare center up, but her communication skills was outstanding. And that's why I say communication, because they filled the center up. The first 2 people was, great to talk to, but communication wise, expressive, could talk, to the parents, the children. And that matters to the parents when they bring their child into that facility. So that's something to think about when you're opening a center. That first person is the person that is going to greet their child, greet the parents, communicate with you. So communication is important because they're probably going to be the person that, welcomes, that they hear on the phone. They're the face of that facility.
Yeah.
So I think communication is one thing.
Yeah. Could I add something to that?
Sure.
One thing I found interesting when you said communication, because when you first said that, I personally was thinking, communication as in, good talking skills, good communication skills, which is good, and like transparency. But one thing that you mentioned, like their smile and stuff like that. So like I think communication and like you said, like yes, what you say and how you give clarity, but in body language,
Mm-hmm.
giving that communication of like you said, like smile on your face. Like I've done it before. I went to a mall once, and I was walking around and went to the food section, and somebody came up to me and was like, "Hey, take a sample, take a sample, come get a sample." He was like trying to like he forced the sample in my face, and I was just like, "No, I'm good." But then I walked a little down the aisle, and there's somebody there, and they smiled. How you doing? I'm great. How are you? Is it doing good? Would you like a sample? It's like I didn't even want the sample, but I was like, "Yes, yeah, I'll try your sample,
Mm-hmm.
man. Yeah, I will." But the guy
Yes.
back there was trying to just like shove it in my face.
Yes.
So it just hit me when you said that. I was like, oh, communication in every way, how you looked, how you act.
It
So yeah,
is. It is. It's
mm,
all in that presentation.
yeah,
It is. It is.
okay,
And the next thing I would think would be that classroom management. That's
okay,
important. That's very important because that child is coming there every day. That child is coming there to learn. So they have to set up their classroom in such a way that they're going to have different stations for different learning. Not only, the different stations for different things to learn, but different learning styles,
mm,
different learning ability. That is
yeah,
important also for a parent. So you've met the parent at the door. There's different learning styles, different learning ability. It's very neat.
mm-hmm,
It flows very well. So that's
okay,
very important as well for different behavior management. So all that is flowing for
mm,
a child care. So you have to know how to set that up. You
mm-hmm,
know, there's creativity, there's imagination there for that.
mm-hmm,
Um, Educational knowledge. It's
okay,
important. Our children cannot just go to daycare. This is
mm,
This is childcare. This
mm-hmm,
is learning. This is a learning place. We have to teach our children because by the time our children go to school, learning and knowing how to count to 10, how to count to 25, that is great,
mm-hmm,
but our children need to be outstanding. We have to
yeah,
raise the bar for our children nowadays. So that's important. We have to have an education base for our children. There has to be curriculum level of development for our children. So
mm,
we have, when our children go into our child care facilities, we have to have curriculum in place for our children every day. We have to be
mm-hmm,
ready for our children every day. They don't, every once in a while, if there's we're doing the curriculum, going through curriculum. If there's a 10-minute break and our children watch television for something educational on television, that's fine. But
mm-hmm,
our children on a regular basis, our teachers should be teaching our children a curriculum base. They should go through curriculum on a daily basis. And then we should assess those skills that they've learned on a daily basis. So that's important.
mm,
Observation and assessment is what they should go through. There should be
okay,
patience. That's a virtue
mm-hmm,
at a child care facility. That's a huge virtue is patience.
yeah,
Now keep in mind, as you said at the beginning of this podcast, I'm a former child care provider. So I'm not just throwing this stuff out here.
yeah,
I've been there.
mm-hmm,
I've been there. So
yeah,
there should be patience. There should be physical activity
mm-hmm,
in our child care facilities. They should be taken outside to do physical activity.
mm-hmm,
So all of these things are very, very important.
mm-hmm, yeah. Well, that was some great info. If you listen to this, get a pen and paper, rewind that. That was awesome. Okay, awesome. Thank you. So as your role currently as like a child care sponsoring agency, um, how do you envision our role like as a sponsor agency in supporting and empowering like early educators? And what advice would you give to individuals that are looking for a career in childcare? or seeking like to enhance their skills kind of in the childcare space.
So our supporting role as a CACFP sponsoring organization is we provide resources for the child and adult care food program. We are their sponsor, so we support them in educational resources in that realm. We give them training and professional development in the child and adult care food program. As you said earlier, we do online training, we do in-person trainings. We provide that. We provide reimbursement for the food that they feed to children in their care. We train them on the CACFP. We do compliance. We make sure that they're in compliance according to the USDA standards and guidelines. So we support them. We keep up with all those USDA standards and guidelines. That's our role as their sponsoring organization. They can call us if they need training. We will direct them to our website. We do in-person trainings. We do 5 or 6 in-person trainings a year. We sponsor in the state of Kentucky and we sponsor in the state of Tennessee. We do
it's like the portal.
Training. Yeah, we have a portal. We have an educational portal that our providers can support, submit their paperwork through a educators portal that we have developed exclusively ourselves. We offer advocacy and support. We're a full-on advocate for our educators. We have been in business since 1995.
Yeah.
So we've been doing this for quite a while, and we love and support our educators in every way we can. I say every way we can. I always say every way we can. That's just a phrase that I use, but we support our educators in so many ways. We have a Link magazine, so we do. But the second part of the question you asked me was advice to individuals considering childcare. The first thing I would say is understand your commitment. Understand that, again, we are shaping and molding our children of our future of tomorrow. So education is the number one thing. When you agree to do child care, we're caring for the whole child. So we're caring for the child educationally, we're caring for the child nutritionally. I don't believe you can have one without the other. I think when you're caring for a child, I don't think a child can think without being fed. I think they have to be fed nutritionally and intellectually. So I think those two go hand in hand. I think you have to have the pursuit of a relevant education and training. You have to train them and educate them correctly. I do think that. I think you have to develop key skills within your person. I think you have to go continue education as a teacher in childcare. I think that starts from inception. Children are learning while they're in the womb. So you have to know that you have to train children up from that, even in child care, in the field we're in CACFP, and educationally in the child care setting. So focus on health and safety in the child care facility. That's important. You learn that in the licensing when you're going through the licensing. Embrace cultural sensitivity, because that's very important in child care. Utilize technology. Technology and having great technology skills is very important. That's something that I was I was a paper person, and I was like, no, I'm going to hold on to this backpack full of all these papers that I carried around for years, until my team was like, you can use just this, and this will house all your papers. And truly, embrace technology.
Hmm.
because that's important. And we have the younger generation that that is so much more savvy, and that's just the way of the future. So do
Hmm.
embrace technology.
Hmm.
Um, Seek a mentor in mentorship, because
Mm.
that's very important
Okay.
in childcare and in the childcare field, because there's a lot of different organizations
Hmm.
that will help along the way in so many different facets of childcare,
Okay. Awesome. Sounds
and so
good.
many different groups that work together in childcare. And join the
There's
CACFP.
yeah, right. Need sponsor, right there. Well, cool.
Yes.
Well, awesome. That's some great advice. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention at all about, yeah, about anything we talked about or haven't talked about even?
I would say that if you know in your heart that childcare is your field, and you know that it is something that you are called to do, stay motivated in childcare, because our children need you.
Hmm.
And do whatever, again, that it takes to motivate you. There's groups that you can join. There are people, reach out to other childcare providers. Do your self-care. Do your
Hmm.
homework in childcare. We have another podcast that tells you how to get started in childcare.
Hmm.
We talk about developing business plans. We talk
Hmm.
about doing those types of things. But if that's what you know that you want to do it, and stay motivated in doing it, and do it 100%, and give our children the best of you.
Mm. All right. Awesome. Well, that's all the questions I had. But again, appreciate you so much taking your time just to be on the podcast today. And hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. Like I said earlier, with being a part of the childcare, being like a childcare educator, if you're looking for someone to sponsor you, we would love to do that. As you heard, like if you're someone who wants to do the right thing and wants to do right by the children, then we definitely want to help you that way, because as you can tell, we believe in doing things right the first time and doing it right every time. And so, yeah, again, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And you have anything else? Are you good?
I do not.
Good.
I'm
All
good.
right.
Thank you.
Well, guys, thank you so much for being on the podcast today, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.